Some years ago, I underwent a heart procedure. My heartbeat had the regularity of a telegraph operator sending Morse code. Fast, 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 and then slow. Well, after several failed attempts to restore the regular rhythm with medication, my doctor decided that I should have catheter ablation. The plan went like this. A cardiologist would insert 2 cables in my heart via a blood vessel. One was a camera, the other was an ablation tool. Now, to ablate is to burn. Yeah, burn, cauterize, singe, brand. If all went well, the doctor, to use his coinage, would destroy the misbehaving parts of my heart. Well, as I was being wheeled into surgery, he asked if I had any final questions. It's not really the best choice of words. So I tried to be witty. I said, "You're burning the interior of my heart, is that correct?" And he agreed. I said, "You intend to kill the misbehaving cells, is that correct?" And again, he said, "Yeah." He said, "That's my plan." So I said, "Well, as long as you are in there, could you take your little blowtorch to some of my greed and selfishness and superiority and guilt?" He smiled and he said, "Well, that's out of my pay grade. But you know, it's not out of God's. Our God is in the business of changing hearts. But we would be wrong to think that this heart change happens overnight. But we would be just as wrong to assume that this change never happens at all. It may come in fits and spurts, an aha here, a breakthrough there, but it comes. The Bible says that the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared. Grace. We talk as if we understand the term. The bank gives us a grace period. The seedy politician falls from grace. I've heard musicians talk about a grace note. We describe an actress as gracious, a dancer as graceful. We use the word for hospitals, baby girls, kings, even pre-meal prayers. We talk as though we know what grace means, especially at church. Grace graces the songs that we sing and the Bible verses that we read. Grace shares the church parsonage with its cousins' faith and fellowship. Preachers explain it, hymns declare it, seminaries teach it, but I'm wondering, do we really understand it? Here's my hunch. I believe that we've settled for wimpy grace, a grace that politely occupies a phrase in a hymn, fits nicely on a church sign, but it never causes trouble, never demands a response. When asked, "Do you believe in grace?" who could say no? But I'd like to ask a deeper question. Have you been changed by grace, shaped by grace, strengthened by grace, emboldened by grace, softened by grace, snatched by the nape of your neck and shaken to your senses by grace? You see, God's grace has a drenching about it, a wildness about it, a whitewater, riptide, turn you upside downness about it. God's grace comes after you. It rewires you. From insecure to God secure, from regret riddled to better because of it. From afraid to die to ready to fly. Grace is the voice that calls us to change and then gives us the power to pull it off. When grace happens, we receive not a nice compliment from God, but a new heart from God. Give your heart to Christ, and He returns the favor. The Bible has God saying, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. You might call it a spiritual heart transplant. Tara Storch understands this miracle as much as anyone might. In the spring of 2010, a skiing accident took the life of her 13-year-old daughter, Taylor. And what followed for Tara and her husband, Todd, was every parent's worst nightmare. A funeral, a burial, a flood of questions and tears. They decided to donate their daughter's organs to needy patients. And few people needed a heart more than Patricia Winters. Her heart had begun to fail some 5 years earlier, leaving her too weak to do much more than sleep. Taylor's heart gave Patricia a fresh start on life. Tara really had only one request. She wanted to hear the heart of her daughter. She and Todd flew from Dallas to Phoenix and went to Patricia's home to listen to Taylor's heart. The two mothers embraced for a long time. And then Patricia offered Tara a stethoscope. And when they listened to the heart rhythm, whose heart did they hear? Did they not hear the still beating heart of their daughter? It indwells a different body for sure, but the heart is the heart of their child. And when God hears your heart, does He not hear the still beating heart of His Son? The Apostle Paul said this. He said, "It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me." For many years, I missed this truth. I believed all the other prepositions, that Christ was for me, that He was with me, that He was ahead of me. I knew that Christ was working around me, and I knew that I was working beside Christ or under Christ, with Christ. But for some reason, I just never imagined that Christ was in me. Yet Christians embrace this inscrutable promise. The mystery in a nutshell is just this: Christ is in you. You see, the Christian is a person in whom Christ is happening. We are Jesus Christ in the sense that we belong to Him. But even more, we are increasingly Him. He moves in. He commandeers our hands and feet. He requisitions our minds and tongues. Rather than tell us to change, He creates the change. Do we clean up so He can accept us? No. Grace says He accepts us, and then He begins cleaning us up. Grace is God as heart surgeon, cracking open your chest, removing your heart, poisoned as it is with pride and pain, and then replacing it with His own. His dream isn't just to get you to heaven, but to get heaven into you. Now, what a difference this makes. You can't forgive your enemy? Can't face tomorrow? You can't forgive your past? Well, Christ can. And He is on the move, aggressively budging you from graceless to grace-shaped living. During the next 7 sessions, let's explore this grace, shall we? God's great grace, greater than we imagine and more than we deserve.